I sat at my daughter's dining table, the same one I had helped her pick out 12 years ago when she and my son-in-law first moved into their starter home. My coffee had gone cold, but I couldn't bring myself to take another sip. Not after what I had just heard. My daughter was laughing with her husband in the kitchen, completely unaware that her words had shattered something inside me. Or maybe she was aware. Maybe that was the worst part. "Mom doesn't understand what real sacrifice looks like," she had said to her husband, not even bothering to lower her voice. "Your mother raised 3 kids on a factory worker's salary. She built everything from nothing. Mine just existed. That word echoed in my mind as I stared at the family photos on the wall. There was my granddaughter Emma's first day of kindergarten, my grandson Tyler's Little League championship, my daughter's wedding day, where I stood in a dress I had bought on clearance because I had just written a check for the photographer she desperately wanted. Existed. I am 64 years old. I worked as a hospital administrator for 38 years before retiring 2 years ago. I raised my daughter alone after my husband passed away when she was only 9. I never remarried. I never took vacations. I never bought myself anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. And according to my own flesh and blood, I just existed. My son-in-law's mother, Patricia, was visiting from Ohio. She had arrived 3 days ago with her usual fanfare. Suitcases full of presents for everyone, stories about her travels to Europe, and her new lakeside condo. She was 67, widowed like me, but somehow she had managed to build what my daughter called a life worth admiring. Patricia paid for everything herself. My daughter had gushed at dinner last night. The kids' summer camp, their music lessons, their new iPads. She doesn't even ask for thanks, she just gives and gives. I had smiled and nodded, the way I always did. I didn't say anything. What was there to say? But today, hearing my daughter laugh about how her mother just existed while Patricia was a saint, something cracked open inside me. A wound I had been ignoring for years started bleeding. I stood up quietly and walked to the front door. "Mom? Where are you going?" My daughter called from the kitchen. "Home?" I said. "I don't feel well." She didn't try to stop me. She didn't even come out of the kitchen to say goodbye. I heard her tell her husband. She's always so dramatic. I drove home in silence. No radio, no phone calls, just me, and 30 years of questions I had never allowed myself to ask. When I got home, I sat in my small living room, the one my daughter always said needed updating. The furniture was old but clean. The curtains were faded but still worked. I had never seen the point in replacing things that still functioned. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe I had spent so much time being practical that I forgot to be visible. I opened my laptop, the one my daughter had mocked for being ancient, and logged into my bank account. Then I opened a drawer and pulled out the folder I had kept for over 2 decades. Inside were receipts, transfer confirmations, canceled checks, and statements. Evidence of a life my daughter apparently knew nothing about. I started writing everything down. My daughter was born in 1986. My husband died in 1995. From that moment on, I was alone. A widow at 36 with a 9-year-old girl who needed braces, piano lessons, and eventually a college education. I worked double shifts for 6 years straight. I missed her school plays because I was covering for colleagues who had families to go home to. I missed her soccer games because overtime paid time and a half, and time and a half meant I could put more money in her college fund. She resented me for it. I know she did. She told me once, when she was 16, that I cared more about my job than I cared about her. She didn't understand that my job was how I cared about her. Every hour I worked was an hour invested in her future. When she graduated high school, I had saved enough to pay for her entire undergraduate degree. Not loans, not scholarships, my money. $83,000 over 4 years at the state university she chose because it was close to her boyfriend. That boyfriend became my son-in-law. His name is Derek. He's not a bad man. He works in IT, makes a decent living, loves his kids. But he has never once thanked me for anything. Neither has his mother, Patricia. After college, my daughter wanted to go to graduate school. She cried on my kitchen floor, saying she would never amount to anything without an MBA. She said all her friends were advancing while she was stuck. I took out a home equity loan. $45,000. I told her it was a gift. She got her MBA. She got a job at a marketing firm. She married Derek. They bought a house. Or rather, they bought a down payment. I provided $60,000 so they could afford a home in a good school district. I didn't ask for it back. I told myself it was an investment in my future grandchildren. Emma was born in 2012. Tyler in 2015. I was there for both births. I took 2 weeks off work each time to help my daughter recover. I cooked, cleaned, changed diapers, and walked colicky babies at 3 in the morning. I slept on their lumpy guest room mattress and pretended my back didn't ache. When Emma was 3, my daughter wanted her in a private preschool. $12,000 a year. My daughter said they couldn't afford it, but Patricia said private education was essential for developing young minds. I agreed. I set up an automatic monthly transfer. $1,000 a month, directly to the school. When Tyler came along, the amount doubled. $2,000 a month. $24,000 a year. I told my daughter the school had given them a financial aid grant. She never questioned it. She just thanked the school administrator and moved on with her life. Emma is now 12. Tyler is 9. They have attended private school their entire lives. The total I have paid for their education is $216,000. But that's not all. 3 years ago, Emma needed braces. Orthodontics aren't cheap. $6,200. My daughter complained that their insurance didn't cover enough. I told her I had a friend who was an orthodontist who owed me a favor. There was no friend. There was only my checkbook. 2 years ago, Tyler was diagnosed with a learning difference. He needed specialized tutoring, occupational therapy, and educational assessments. The total cost was $14,000 over 18 months. My daughter told everyone that the school covered it through a special program. I was the special program. Last year, my daughter's car broke down. She needed reliable transportation for the kids. I transferred $18,000 to her account and told her it was an early inheritance, a small portion of what I was planning to leave her anyway. She bought a new SUV. She never mentioned the money again. Derek's mother, Patricia, retired from her factory job 10 years ago. She has a pension and Social Security. She bought her lakeside condo with money she inherited from her own mother. She travels because she has few expenses and no one depending on her. When she visits, she brings iPads and designer clothes for the grandchildren. She takes everyone out to fancy dinners and insists on paying the bill with a flourish. She talks about her European cruises and her investment portfolio. She is generous with things that are visible, things that can be photographed and posted on social media, things that make my daughter say, "Isn't she amazing?" I am generous with things that are invisible, tuition payments that arrive silently, medical bills that disappear, emergency funds that materialize exactly when needed. No one photographs a paid tuition bill. No one posts about their mother covering their mortgage shortfall. No one brags that grandma secretly funded their entire life. I never asked for credit. I never wanted applause. I just wanted my daughter and her family to be secure. But I did not want to be told I just existed. 3 days after I left my daughter's house, she called me. Her voice was cheerful, oblivious. "Mom, we're having a little party for Patricia's last night here. Just a small dinner. Can you come?" She specifically asked if you'd be there. I almost said no. I almost made an excuse about not feeling well, which would have been true. I had not felt well since I heard those words in her kitchen. But something stopped me. Something that had been building for 3 decades. "Yes," I said. "I'll be there. But I need to say something to everyone." My daughter laughed nervously. "What do you mean?" "Say what?" "You'll see." That evening, I arrived at my daughter's house with a manila envelope. Inside were copies of every receipt, every bank transfer, every canceled check I had written on her behalf since the day she turned 18. Patricia was holding court in the living room, showing photos from her recent trip to Italy. Emma and Tyler were listening politely. Derek was nodding along. My daughter was gazing at her mother-in-law with something like reverence. "There she is," Patricia called out when I walked in. "We were just talking about how blessed this family is. So much love from all sides." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. We had dinner. Patricia regaled us with stories about the Amalfi Coast. My daughter talked about how Patricia had offered to pay for Emma's upcoming dance competition expenses, $300 for costumes and registration fees. "She's too generous," my daughter said, beaming at Patricia. "We don't know what we'd do without her." I set down my fork. "Can I say something?" The table went quiet. My daughter looked at me with a hint of concern, or maybe annoyance. It was hard to tell sometimes. "Of course, Mom." "What is it?" I took a deep breath. 3 days ago, I overheard you telling Derek that I don't understand real sacrifice, that Patricia built everything from nothing while I just existed. My daughter's face went pale. Derek stared at his plate. Patricia shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, I didn't mean. Please let me finish." She closed her mouth. "I have never asked for thanks. I have never wanted recognition. But I will not sit here and be told that I contributed nothing to this family while someone else gets credit for everything." I placed the manila envelope on the table. "What's that?" my daughter asked. "Open it." She hesitated, then pulled out the stack of papers. I watched her face as she began to read. This is my college tuition. All 4 years. $83,000. Keep reading. My MBA. $45,000. You told me it was a gift. It was. From my home equity." She flipped to the next page. "Our down payment. $60,000. You said you had been saving." I had been. "For 30 years." Her hands started shaking. She looked at the next document, then the next. Emma's preschool. Tyler's preschool. All these monthly payments. This says it's been going on for 9 years. 10, actually. $216,000 for their education alone. Derek finally looked up. "Wait. That financial aid we got from the school." There was no financial aid. There was me. My daughter was crying now. Tears streamed down her face as she kept reading. Emma's braces, Tyler's therapy, the car she was driving, emergency transfers she had forgotten about, medical bills she thought insurance covered. I don't understand. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to feel obligated. I didn't want you to love me because of money. I wanted you to love me because I'm your mother." I turned to Patricia, who had been silent this entire time. "I'm not angry at you. You've been generous in your own way. But your generosity comes with fanfare. Mine comes with silence. Your generosity buys things that can be seen. Mine pays for things that keep this family functioning." Patricia nodded slowly. "I had no idea," she said quietly. "No one did. That was the point." My daughter pushed back from the table. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I genuinely didn't know. That's the problem. You didn't know because you never asked. You assumed that because I don't have a lakeside condo or take European vacations, I must not have anything to give. You saw my old furniture and my ancient laptop and decided I was someone who just existed. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Yes. You were." Emma, my 12-year-old granddaughter, spoke up. "Grandma, did you really pay for all my schools?" I looked at her sweet face, so confused and concerned. "Every single year, sweetheart. Every single tuition payment. Why didn't we know? Because your grandmother wanted you to think you were normal, to not feel different from your friends, to never worry about money the way I worried when I was young." Tyler piped up. "Is Grandma poor now?" I smiled sadly. "No, honey. Grandma is fine. Grandma just made different choices." My daughter was still crying. She stood up and walked around the table to me. "I don't deserve you," she whispered. "Maybe not, but you have me anyway." She hugged me, and for the first time in years, it felt genuine. Not the obligatory hug you give your mother at holidays. A real embrace, full of remorse and recognition. But I wasn't done. I gently pulled away and looked at her. I need you to understand something. I'm not showing you this to make you feel guilty. I'm showing you this because I need you to see me. Really see me. Not as your background character mother who just exists, but as someone who gave everything she had so you could have the life you wanted. I see you now, Mom. I'm so sorry it took this long. I also need you to understand that things are going to change. She wiped her eyes. What do you mean? I've been supporting this family financially for over 20 years. I've depleted my savings, taken out loans, and postponed my own retirement to make sure you never struggled. But I'm 64 years old now. I can't keep doing this forever. Of course, Mom, we never expected. You never expected because you never knew. But now you do. And now you need to plan accordingly. No more secret payments from me. No more invisible support. If you need help, you ask. And we discuss it like adults. My daughter nodded, ashamed. That's fair. I turned to Derek. And you. I don't blame you for not knowing. But I do expect you to take responsibility for your family's finances now that you understand the real picture. Your mother has been wonderful with gifts, but gifts don't pay mortgages. Derek swallowed hard. You're right. I should have been paying more attention. You both should have. But it's not too late to start. Patricia cleared her throat. May I say something? I nodded. She looked at my daughter with an expression I hadn't seen before, something like embarrassment mixed with respect. Your mother has done more for you than I have ever done for my own children. I give gifts because it's easy. It makes me feel good. People thank me, and I feel appreciated. But your mother has been carrying your entire family on her shoulders without asking for a single thank you. She turned to me. I owe you an apology. Not for what I've done, but for taking credit I didn't deserve. Every time your daughter praised me, she should have been praising you. I appreciated her honesty. Thank you, Patricia. The rest of the evening was quiet. The children went to bed early, sensing the tension. Derek and Patricia excused themselves. My daughter and I sat alone in the kitchen, just the two of us, like it had been when she was young. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you do all of this? Why give so much without telling me? I thought about it for a long moment. How do you explain 30 years of silent love? When your father died, you were only 9. I saw your whole world collapse. You cried for months. You had nightmares. You asked me every day when Daddy was coming home. She winced at the memory. I promised myself that you would never feel that kind of loss again. That you would never be scared or insecure or wondering if everything was going to be okay. I wanted to wrap you in a bubble of safety and protection, even if you didn't know it was there. But it cost you everything. No, it cost me money, and time, and energy. But it didn't cost me everything. I still have you. I still have Emma and Tyler. I still have a life, even if it's smaller than Patricia's. Your life isn't small, Mom. I was wrong to ever think that. I know, but I also understand why you thought it. I made myself invisible so you could shine. I stayed in the background so you could take center stage. I just didn't realize that being invisible would eventually mean being forgotten. My daughter reached across the table and took my hand. I will never forget again, I promise. Don't promise me something you might not keep. Just try. Try to see me. Try to remember that love doesn't always look like European vacations and designer gifts. Sometimes love looks like an old woman in an old house, quietly making sure her family never has to struggle. I see that now. I really do. We talked until midnight. She asked questions about every payment, every sacrifice, every decision I had made without her knowledge. I answered honestly. For the first time in decades, there were no secrets between us. When I finally got up to leave, she walked me to my car. Mom, one more thing. Yes? I want you to stop paying for things. All of it. The kids' school, the tutoring, everything. Derek and I need to figure out how to do this ourselves. I raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? That's a significant expense. I'm sure. You've given us enough. More than enough. It's time for us to stand on our own. I smiled, and this time it reached my eyes. That's all I ever wanted. Not for you to need me. For you to be able to stand on your own. She hugged me again. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. I always have, even when you couldn't see it. I drove home that night with a lightness I hadn't felt in years. The weight of 30 years of silent sacrifice had finally been acknowledged. I didn't need applause or awards, I just needed to be seen. The next morning, I received a text from Emma. My granddaughter had never texted me before. Grandma, Mom told me everything. I didn't know you paid for all my schools. That's a lot of money. I promise I'll study really hard and make you proud. I love you. I sat in my kitchen and cried. Not from sadness this time. From relief, from recognition, from the knowledge that finally, after all these years, my family understood what I had done for them. 2 weeks later, my daughter called with news. She and Derek had restructured their budget. They had moved Emma and Tyler to public school for the following year. They had cut expenses and started saving. For the first time in their marriage, they were living within their actual means. It's hard, she admitted. But it's right. We should have done this years ago. I'm proud of you. I learned from the best. Patricia visited again a few months later. This time, when she brought gifts for the grandchildren, my daughter said something that made my heart swell. Thank you, Patricia. But you know, my mother gave them something much more valuable than any present. She gave them stability. Patricia smiled and nodded. She certainly did. That evening, the three of us sat together on my daughter's porch. 2 grandmothers and a daughter, watching Emma and Tyler play in the backyard. I've been thinking, Patricia said, about what I can do differently. Not just give gifts, but actually help in meaningful ways. Like what? My daughter asked. I have some savings. I've been spending it on myself, mostly. Trips and things. But maybe I could set up an education fund for the kids. Something they can use for college. Something that actually matters. My daughter looked at me. I nodded encouragingly. That would be wonderful, Patricia. Thank you. And just like that, things began to shift. Not dramatically. Not overnight. But slowly, steadily. The family dynamic changed. Derek stepped up. My daughter became more aware. The children learned about gratitude and sacrifice. And I finally got to stop being invisible. I am still 64 years old. I still live in my small house with my old furniture and my ancient laptop. I still don't take European vacations or buy designer gifts. But I am no longer someone who just exists. I am the woman who held her family together with invisible threads of love and sacrifice. I am the grandmother who paid for schools and braces and emergencies without ever asking for credit. I am the mother who gave everything she had so her daughter could have a life worth living. And now, finally, my family knows it. Last month, Emma had a school project about family heroes. She had to write about someone who inspired her. She wrote about me. My grandmother taught me that real love isn't about getting credit or being thanked. It's about doing what's right for the people you care about, even when no one is watching. She's my hero because she never stopped giving, even when no one noticed. I want to be like her when I grow up. I framed that essay and hung it on my wall, right next to my old curtains and my faded furniture. It's the most beautiful thing I own.